I never thought of stardom or fame, or I really didn't even think about that. I remember it all being so surreal and thinking, wow, this is next level. This is like there are girls screaming. I was just a guarded person. I hadn't developed the skills or the chops yet to really be the face of what they were hearing or seeing on TV. The first time I really came into, I guess, fame, you could say, I remember I was 16 years old and my first album had just dropped, Beautiful Soul, and I was doing an appearance at a mall. They expected, I think, a few hundred people to show up. We got there and over 8,000 people came to the mall. I remember looking out, I was in some sort of back room where I could see the people, and I remember thinking, all these people are really here to see me. And I'll never forget, and this was really like the height of the realization where I realized, oh my God, this is serious. We were walking through the crowd and the fans just totally took over the security brigade that was circling me and knocked them all down. And all of a sudden I'm in a sea of people, of prepubescent, hormonal teenage girls who are screaming and reaching out towards me. And this one girl, she reached out and she pulled my hair and she grabbed the top of my head and she ripped it, and she had a fistful of my hair. And I'm arriving to the stage, and I'm jumping up, and I realized my head is bleeding, and the pain was so intense that I was actually like crying. I was like, the tears were rolling down my face, but I was so excited, and it was so many different emotions. I'm like crying, but excited. I'm like, what's up, Chicago? And my head is bleeding, and I'm like, wow, I guess this is fame.
Born to a family who loved the theater, Jesse McCartney grew up on the stage, performing in musicals and plays since the age of 7. He made his television debut at just 11 years old when he landed a reoccurring role on the popular soap opera, All My Children. By 12, he rose to mainstream fame as a tween heartthrob when he became the youngest member of the 90s boy band, Dream Street. At 15, McCartney began his career as a solo musician and has since released 4 studio albums, toured with the biggest names in pop, and landed roles on countless TV shows and films, all of which have earned him numerous awards. At only 27 years old, Jesse McCartney has spent over a decade and a half in the spotlight.
Once I booked All My Children, all of a sudden I was this working actor at the age of 11. I was in like 6th grade, and I would go to school and I'd finish my studies and I'd get in the car, and on the way from my school down to the city, I would be, just speed reading my scripts and memorizing as much dialogue as I could. It became sort of a routine and a part of my life. The first time I remember being recognized, I was about 11 or 12 years old. I remember this saleswoman walking up to me. I was at some department store, like Macy's or something, and she just started coming straight at me, and she was like this middle-aged woman. And she goes, "Aren't you JR?" And I played J.R. Chandler, and it was sort of a surreal thing because I had just started on the show, and my first episode on the show had just aired, and I was like, yeah. And I didn't really know what to do. I was like, can I also, yeah, that's me, can I buy this? And I remember signing an autograph, and I really hadn't signed an autograph yet. It was my first time, so I didn't really know if I should sign cursive or if I should just write, my print was pretty good. But that was my first sort of interaction with a fan, and from there it sort of grew. I was definitely famous to women between the ages of 45 and 65. That was my oldest and first demographic. To them, I think, I was like a soap star or something, but so much so that I really, I couldn't go to a bookstore or to any place where you might find that demographic without being recognized. And it got to a point where I would walk down the street and, if I saw, a woman that age even look at me, I would start to think, oh, here we go. And that eventually ended when I left the soap world. Once I had a steady gig in the soap world and on daytime television, there was a certain point where I got a call to go and audition for a boy band. You know, at the time, the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, they were the new era of boy bands for the late 90s. So I was kind of curious, and I went to the audition just to kind of see, and it was a big cattle call of, like, you know, 600 guys going into audition. They called and said, you know, we want you to be one of the 5 members of this new boy band called Dream Street. I was very green and naive, and I just knew that I loved to sing and that I loved to perform and entertain. I didn't know what my expectations were. I think I just was like, oh, cool, I get to do this, and this is so much more fun than school.
Coming up, Jesse deals with his Disney image.
There's this sort of negative connotation in the sense that if you've been a Disney star or a child star, you know, you kind of fit into a mold, and surely you don't have any talent.
After 3 years with Dream Street, McCartney was ready to stand alone. His fame amongst tween girls didn't go unnoticed by the Disney-owned Hollywood Records, and they soon signed him on as a solo artist. In 2004, Jesse McCartney released his platinum debut album, Beautiful Soul. The song of the same name infiltrated top 40 charts, which earned him multiple awards. Still just a high school student, Jesse McCartney became a household name.
I wasn't really like the popular kid in school by any means. I definitely, you know, there were the cliche, quintessential, you know, bullies in school that would pick on me and, you know, push me, stuff me into a locker because I sang. It was strange, you know. A lot of people think that I dropped out of school or that I didn't really have much of a childhood, but it really, the fame thing didn't really start happening until I was a junior in high school. I remember the first time I heard my song on the radio, I had just taken my SATs, and I got in my car and I turned it on, and my song came on the radio. And I just remember in that moment thinking I really wasn't the best test taker, and I was like freaking out about the SAT score, and I just remember thinking, whatever. Like, the SATs don't work out. My song's on the radio right now. And that feeling just washed over me, like, oh, okay, this is big time. Like, this is actually happening. It was go time. I had to start prepping for a tour. I had to start getting ready to face the American public and do every talk show and TV show in the country. We toured with, like, Britney Spears, and we toured with a bunch of big people, and I remember it all being so surreal and thinking, wow, this is next level. This isn't just like, you know, a 50-year-old woman walking up to me. This is like, there are girls screaming. You know, we've all heard that term, teenage heartthrob, and I was in that mix. I was in that mix of young male singers who, you know, girls had posters of me on their bedroom walls, and it's so funny actually saying that out loud, but it's true. I mean, that happened. Again, like, you never really get used to that feeling that, you know, people are looking at you every day in their bedroom. It's sort of a bizarre thing. As a child star, when you start off at such a young age, you know, it's almost never about the work. It's always about the, you know, the teen heartthrob sort of sensation. That's a tough one to kind of swallow, you know, not, you know, knowing that it's never, they don't really know the amount of work that sometimes goes into it, you know. But for the fans and for those that are looking up to me or sort of recognizing me, I really hope it's always for the right reasons, and it's for the music or the work that I do, and not just because of the celebrity factor. And I you know, that's, to me, that's the most important thing. If you look at the amount of stars that started at Disney, it's crazy. The list goes on and on. I think just by association, I was sort of pegged as like this Disney kid. And, you know, at the time I had this long blonde hair, and the songs I was singing were very lighthearted, sugary records. You know, I definitely got popped as that, like, Disney kid. And it worked. It worked great. I mean, it definitely sold a lot of records, and the group of fans now that were showing up were, you know, between the ages of 7 and 15 years old. So it was a very young audience. I think that's the hardest part, though, is establishing yourself as a credible adult entertainer I think there's this sort of negative connotation in the sense that if you've been a Disney star or a child star, that you kind of fit into a mold and surely you don't have any talent. That, at least for me, has been sort of the hardest part, is sort of bridging the gap and sort of coming into my own as an adult and showing people, like, no, I'm here to stick around, and this is what I do, and I do it well. When you're 15, 16 years old, you're in the public eye at a young age. There are choices that you have to make, and I've been very fortunate. I have an amazing team of people that I work with, and I have worked with for over a decade now. And I remember early on turning down some roles that maybe were a little racy in fear of offending people. And, there are a lot of calculated choices, and you have to pick your moments where you're gonna make a little noise or, not be afraid to offend a couple of people. And I've had to do that, I think, in my career a few times, but hopefully you have an awesome group of people around you to help make those choices, because I'm just the face of the operation. I mean, I could never do this by myself, ever. It would be impossible.
Coming up, Jesse deals with the invasion of privacy that comes with being famous.
There are times where you get caught off guard and you're like, whoa, wait, I'm in the bathroom, like, can you leave me alone? I'm not a sharer, which is funny because in this day and age we're in a world of sharing. Everybody, as soon as somebody sees something, like, oh, I have to post it on Instagram or share it with everybody. I don't really think that way. I just have always been sort of to myself, and I never thought of stardom or fame, or I really didn't even think about that. I was just a guarded person. I hadn't developed the skills or the chops yet to really be that social personality or be the face of what they were hearing or seeing on TV. And I didn't really know how to interact with these newfound fans. And that took some time. It really took a lot of time to get used to.
Jesse, how's the club, Jesse? How's the club? Jesse.
Celebrities know that fame comes at a price and that they can't turn it on and off at their own convenience. More than the flashing lights and the attempt to protect some essence of privacy, there's also the need to always be ready for the unexpected.
It's funny, so often I get asked, like, what's it like, or how do you deal with being in the public eye or being a, quote, celebrity? And I don't think you ever really get used to that fully. I think you become more and more aware of it, but there are times where, like I said, you get caught off guard and you're like, whoa, wait, I'm in the bathroom, like, can you leave me alone? I'm at an airport, I'm in an airport bathroom, like, can I not sign your daughter's t-shirt right now? I think the one thing that I've learned is you kind of always have to be on your toes and ready for the unexpected and for someone to walk up to you at any given point.
What's up, Jesse? What's going on, man? Jesse, what are you aspiring to do this year? He's got a new show, right? Got a new show, right? Okay. Hey, thanks for talking, Jesse.
It can be hard to have, a serious relationship, when you're in the public eye. I've only been in a few real relationships, I think you could say, that actually meant something, and they've all had their challenges because of what I do. It's rough not just in your romantic relationships, but also in your family, in your family life. It's tough, like you want to go out and have like a nice family meal or go do something with your folks, and the attention gets directed to you, and sometimes you don't want, you just don't want to have to deal with that. You want to just be with those you showed up with. So that's always been a little bit of a challenge, but thankfully I have a very forgiving group of people in my life, and people who are willing to deal with all that. I'm very, very fortunate for that. I think it comes with the territory. It's one of those things where you signed up for this and you kind of have to be ready for all of it. And I think with great success also comes great responsibility. And I have a responsibility to be kind and to be there for the fans who put me here, and to make sure that I give them that time when they are, just recently at the airport on TSA line, one of the TSA ladies was like, "Hey, I'll get you through security. Can we take a quick picture?" It's like, actually, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm running late for my flight. But those moments, I think it takes so little of my energy and time, and I feel like it really does change the outcome of their day, even, or even just a few short moments. It puts a smile on their face, and that's really nice. I mean, it feels good to be able to do that, truly. I have to say, like, I have nothing to complain about. My fans have always been, for the most part, very respectful. There's always going to be one person that just doesn't know how to control themselves or act like a civil human, but, that's life, whatever. Is fame addictive? I don't know. I'm still, like, uncomfortable with the word. Like, just actually saying I'm famous, it just sounds so self-involved, and it's hard for me to swallow that word completely. I think what I do for a living is very addictive. I love music. It's like a universal language that you never hear somebody that says, "I don't like music." You have your taste in music, but no one ever says they don't like it. It's a really great job because I know everyone can relate to it. It's accessible. And, what I do for a living, my job is absolutely highly addictive.
Coming up, Jesse splits from Hollywood Records.
How did I want to be perceived now? It was my turn to really decide how I was going to direct my own career. I think with any career, there are super highs and super lows. Those lower points in your career, I think they're necessary because it makes those higher points that much sweeter, and you appreciate those moments of success a lot more.
After Jesse McCartney released his third album, Departure, in 2008, his song Leavin' became his highest charting single to date, selling over 2 million downloads on iTunes. Despite his success on Departure, McCartney encountered complications releasing his follow-up album through Hollywood Records, and eventually he split from the label. McCartney took on more film and voiceover roles in the following years, but it wasn't until 2014 that he would release another album, in Technicolor, this time as an independent artist under his own label, 808 Records.
I think, it was just one of those things where it kind of felt like a good time to kind of go my own way. I ended up starting my own record company, but, that period of time, all of a sudden it was like 2 years, 3 years later, and I wake up and I'm like, shoot, it's 2012. It's been 4 years. I got to get back to some music. Super bad, that's a fact. Knock your train right off the track. I feel like I got to a point where, I could do it myself, and I could also not have to answer to any A&R guy about what I wanted to do creatively. And that was so refreshing to think about. How did I want to be perceived now? It was my turn to really decide how I was going to direct my own career. Treated like a queen, don't need no permission. I had to go this route. So far, it was the best decision I think I've ever made. It did nothing but help my career musically. I think people see and hear this album, and they're starting to see me a lot more seriously than I think they previously did. I wouldn't trade, my choices or my career choices for anything. I have no regrets. I think everything that I've done for a reason, and I'm very happy with the turnout thus far. When I was 10, 11, 12 years old, my memories of being a celebrity at that age was, man, I really hope they don't judge my really terrible cursive handwriting when I signed them an autograph. I was awkward, I think anybody at that age, especially like going through puberty, I had braces on at one point. I remember thinking like, oh, dude, this is a terrible time to be famous. Those were the early, it was very innocent then. At this point, at 27, my view now is just, continue to do what I do at a high level. And I feel like I've really put I've put my 10,000 hours in. I've put in all the work in all aspects of being an entertainer, not just the work, but also dealing with the celebrity and dealing with the fans and having to interact with them. I feel just a lot more comfortable with it now. It's kind of just become a part of who I am, and I just deal with it as it comes, and I love it. You know, I love what I do, and I love that I have a group of fans that still want to come up and ask for a picture and an autograph because it allows me to do what I do for a living. For me, it's always been about the music. It's always been about the work. I feel like those who really come out on top are those who really work hard and put the work in and have what it takes to do this job. More and more, I feel like people, when they walk up to me now, they have something to say about my record or about a film or a TV show that I've done. And for me, that makes the celebrity sort of worthwhile, you know, is knowing that I've moved somebody in some way, shape, or form.